Welcome back to the Hockey Hotbed, presented as always by the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as DraftKings. Make sure you use promo code THPN at the DraftKings Sportsbook app for great odds and opportunities. I'm host Nick Brlansky, and I am still joined here by Neil and Shane, who have been gracious enough to give me their time to kind of break down the best storylines in the National Hockey League. We talked a little World Juniors earlier in this show, and now I think it's time to focus in on the cream of the crop, the bread and butter of these two. Let's talk a little bit about the New Jersey Devils and the Ottawa Senators. Now, Neil, I know it's been a rough go of things for the Devils, especially today, a couple of bad news. So I'm not going to hammer you home with those. I know you're going to talk about it a lot. I know it's not great. So let's have a little bit of fun here and a little bit of conversation, some debate. Which player would you rather have? And I'll ask Shane the same question. Which player would you rather have, Dawson Mercer or Tim Stutzle?
Oh God, you're gonna put me. Oh my God. All right. Well.
Come on, Neil. I know.
Yeah. All right. I knew. Yeah. You know. Nick has watched enough of myself and Shane to know that when both of us are in a podcast episode together, that something is gonna snap. And everybody just enjoys this. So
I didn't realize it was gonna be so soon too.
I know, and the thing is, the problem is that Stutzle's in his second year. You know what I mean? And like he's had a pretty decent season, probably not to the same level that he had last year. Dawson Mercer honestly has been a guy that the Devils have been lacking for quite some time when it comes to just speed, skill, scoring, potential and things like that. He's a guy that can definitely be a game changer. And here's the thing about Dawson Mercer. Mercer was the other first-round pick, one of the three that we had in the first round back in 2020, and the pick that we got for Taylor Hall. So really, we got Dawson Mercer for Taylor Hall, and I think that kind of worked out. It certainly worked out in the Devils' favor, and he's a guy that has an entire area of Canada cheering for him. I mean, and I think that just speaks for itself, just how popular he is and everything like that. And he's really starting to come into his own. He looks like a guy that's been here for forever. And so for me, as much as I love Tim Stutzle, and look, I wanted the Devils to get the opportunity to draft him when we go back to the 2020 draft. But for me, it's hands down, it's Dawson Mercer.
Yeah, see, it's hard because I love Dawson Mercer. I think he's a great player.
A few times Shane and I agree on a player. We like him.
So when Ottawa had the Islanders pick from the Peugeot trade, I had three tiers of potential outcomes. Where would that Islanders pick land would depend on who I was looking at for where I think he would fit. Dawson Mercer was a guy that I always wanted Ottawa to draft if Ottawa had, that pick within 10 through 16.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, okay, if Dawson Mercer is available within this range, we should pick him. He'll fit this team perfectly. I really like him. The Islanders went on that improbable run that no one was expecting. We got 28th and we picked Ridley Gregg. We also got Jake Sanderson and Tim Stutzle from that draft. I'm not upset. The thing with Dawson Mercer is that he's basically a draft class later than he should have been. It's the same thing with Brady Tkachuk versus Jesper Kotkaniemi. Tim Stutzle will turn 20 later in a week. Dawson Mercer will turn 21 in October. If he's born a month and a half later or a month and a half earlier, he's in the 2019 draft.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Stutzle is a raw talent. I compared him a lot to what Nathan McKinnon was when he was drafted in Colorado, where he wasn't going to bloom right away. There was that development curve, and then by year 4 or 5, he kind of exploded. Mm-hmm. Tim Stutzle is also playing with players who do not fit the skill quality that he needs to play with. He's a pass first guy. Tim Stutzle is a pass first player. He is a setup man. He can shoot, but he definitely has more of a playmaker style. He was playing with Nick Paul and Connor Brown for most of the year. And if he wasn't playing with those two, he was playing with Chris Tierney and Tyler Evans. None of those four, outside of Connor Brown, who has had multiple 20-goal seasons, 3 of those guys, not much of scorers anymore. So it's kind of hard. In the long run, though, I'm taking Timmy Stu any day of the week. I think longevity, he's gonna have a better career. Dawson Mercer, though, is gonna be one hell of a player. Like, don't get me wrong. He
Mhm,
is gonna be a wrecking force for New Jersey with
mhm.
that core for the foreseeable future. But Tim Stutzle is a guy that, like, you watch him play and you see the flashes, and you're like, you put him with a guy who can actually finish, he'll
Yeah.
rack the points. Like, he had a pretty decent rookie season, and like a full 82 games, because he barely, 56 games, he put up like 30 some points. 79 games, he played 79 games out of Ottawa's 82 during the 21 calendar year. He had like
Mhm.
45 points, which is pretty decent for a rookie season.
Mhm. Yeah, when I look at these two, there's obviously a reason I put them in the same question, is because they are both very
Right.
good young talents. And when I look at them, I see Dawson Mercer as a really talented top six forward, but I see Tim Stutzle as a guy that is just, he's going to be the guy, in my opinion. Like I see
Mhm.
he has more potential to be the man. I think Dawson
I can
Mercer
see that.
with Alexander Holtz and with like a Jack Hughes and a Nico Hischier right above him, I
Yeah.
think he's going to fit in perfectly in that role. Sort of where, I mean, I'll bring this back to Pittsburgh, sort of where like a Brian Rust is or Jake Gensel is, which I think if you hear that, Neil, I think you would be like, yeah, I'm okay if he becomes a point per game player that doesn't get respected. So
Yeah.
at the same time, I do think if I had to take one of them, I would probably bite down on my tongue, be really upset that I could only pick one and take Tim Stutzle.
And I honestly, I can't really argue with either one of you guys at all, because Dawson Mercer was not brought here to New Jersey to be the man, because we already have the man, and his name is Jack Hughes. I mean, that is just it's point blank, cut and dry. Jack Hughes is the guy, And if you want to go a step further, Alexander Holtz was drafted to be that guy, the goal scorer, the guy that we look to for constant ability. Dawson Mercer's a guy that's on your top six that can do a little bit of everything, that can set guys up. Very similar, Shane, to Tim Stutzla, is that Dawson Mercer is a pass first guy. He has tremendous playmaking ability. He focuses way more on getting guys the puck and setting them up. I feel like Jack Hughes is starting to get out of that habit a little bit, because Jack Hughes will do a lot of, trying to set everybody else up, but he's playing at times with guys that are not shoot first type players. They are also guys that pass first. But I would say basically, like, I can totally understand. Tim Stutzla, other than Kachuk, is like that main dude in Ottawa. And I can totally understand. I could see the talent. That's why I was so high on him in the draft, because I felt like, well, maybe the Devils will get a shot to draft him. And Shane told me at least 100 times. He said, no, the Senators are not going to let Stutzla fall beyond like pick 4. Like, it's not gonna happen.
So I have a question for Neil.
Yeah.
Where does Dawson fit behind a healthy, like, you look at your top three? 'Cause he's a center, right? Like, that's his primary
He's a
position.
center and a winger. He plays both.
So is he gonna stay on the wing for the most part, or because,
Mhm.
like, you look at Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, those
Right.
guys are your top two centers.
Correct.
So is it possible that Dawson Mercer slides at the wing full time? Because Ottawa's in a similar situation with Tim Stutzle. We
Right.
have Josh Norris, Shane Pinto, but we also have Ridley Gregg that doesn't get enough talk about his play style. And people said, oh, you can keep
He's so
Stutzle.
underrated. He's honestly so underrated, that kid.
I've watched him for the last 3 years. His play style does not fit to wing, in my opinion. I don't think Ridley
Mhm.
Gregg's his play style fits as a center.
Right.
So if you're Ottawa has a choice to make. If you're going to keep Tim Stutzle at center, Pinto or Gregg will be moved to bring in a caliber winger, which makes sense.
Of course.
Is New Jersey more likely to keep Dawson Mercer on the wing, or will they have a 1-2-3 punch with Dawson Mercer on that third line, or even Nico Hischier as your third line center?
Right. No, that's a really good question. That's something that's been up for debate within the Devils, fan base for the last, year or so, when we talk about the potential and everything like that. I would answer it kind of like this way. It, number one, would depend on what the Devils do moving forward, just player wise, whether it's guys within our system, or if we go out and make more free agent moves, or trading. Remember, the Devils still have some of the most cap space in the NHL, and they're going to have that for the next several years, despite all the moves the Devils have made. I think honestly, this year is a good evaluation of seeing what Dawson Mercer can do as a winger, because even in the game tonight against Boston, he's playing on the wing. He's not playing in the center position. They want to see what he can do with regards to being that winger player. I think, though, long term, Shane, even though Dawson Mercer has top six talent, I do believe that when you look at it, when the Devils become that consistent playoff team again and hopefully eventually Stanley Cup contender, I think you will see Dawson Mercer as potentially that third line center, or like you mentioned before, maybe flipping Nico from 1 to potentially 3, because you're not moving Jack Hughes down to the third line, and you're certainly not going to stick him on the wing, because every time the Devils have stuck him on the wing, it does not work. He is not a wing type player. He is a center. That is who he is. So I would say that it's really going to depend on what the Devils do the rest of this season and then moving into next year. And that would give me a better idea as to where they see him fit. But right now, I would say probably he's better on the wing.